What's up, everyone? I'm gonna let the YouTube catch up. I think today I'll just be doing an entire free session because we're not really looking at any particular setups. We'll just be going over the dollar, the election. It is a very big day. If you can look at that daily candle for the dollar index, you'll know right off the bat it's a big day. So YouTube is just up. So welcome, everyone. Today is November 3rd, election day on a Tuesday, and we aren't even past noon, and you already see the dollar index reacting. This is huge, and if you watch yesterday's session, we explained two scenarios and the results. So we said that if Biden wins, we will see a weaker dollar in the short term, a stronger gold in the short term, and stocks would go down a bit in the short term, right? So dollar down, gold up, stocks down if Biden wins in the short term. If Trump wins, in the short term, we should see a stronger dollar, a weaker gold, and stronger stocks. Now this morning, if you look at the dollar index, this is today's daily candle. This is huge, considering the fact that we're only at 11 a.m. We're not even past noon. We're not even past 1 p.m. This is a huge reaction. Now, in yesterday's session, I said that the current national polls point to a Biden victory. In terms of percentages, I think I gave Biden a 54% chance of winning, and I gave Trump a 46% chance of winning. Based on this reaction, I think Wall Street and most of the markets are predicting a Biden win, and so you may see this move happen before the official result is announced. That's all speculation. That's one of the reasons why many traders are not trading this week, especially advanced traders, because this candle, you have to understand this is a huge bearish candle, and typically we don't see this type of reaction during the New York session unless there's fundamental news, right? Like, for example, NFP or monetary policy, stuff like that, right? So if we pull up the fundamental schedule, let me give you a quick look. My throat's just killing day by day. So here we go. You can see this morning we had absolutely nothing, right? Nothing containing to the U.S. dollar, except all day is the elections, right? Later in the day we have NZD, but this reaction, this is very bold. And this is the reason why in yesterday's session, we wanted to clear that high we created, right? This was our overall target, and we got there, and then we wanted price to close above that high to confirm that we're going to this high up here. You can see price printed a shooting star, and then came up for a retest, and then it sold off. So it was good, decision on our part to wait for the dollar index to close above this high. And if you just look at the size of these candles, very huge. This is what you're going to see on election day. And the Daily Effects did a really nice article about this. And so it says, how will markets react to the 2020 presidential election? So U.S. elections are coming down to the wire with just one day to go until November 3rd. A mixed composition of Congress could be the worst outcome for financial markets, while the full Democratic or Republican control of Washington, D.C. could prove positive regardless of policy outcomes. So remember we talked about this. And then the coronavirus pandemic makes the 2020 election cycle and the reaction of financial markets unlike any other election cycle in American history. This is why this election is so important, because all that has happened and that all that is expected to happen, this is why this election has so much speculation and kind of anxiousness around it, because there could be civil unrest, there could be, a complete 180 on how they treat and prevent coronavirus from spreading, stimulus packages, monetary policy. Both sides, the Democrats and Republicans, are so opposite in their views that either way we'll get a massive reaction. And so this is a good breakdown of what will happen. We kind of covered this in yesterday's session, but if you look at some of these topics, we've covered it in depth in yesterday's video, but in short, what we described was Trump will have a initial stronger dollar if he gets reelected. If Biden wins, you should see the dollar index continue to slip. For example, maybe down to 93.13. I won't even be surprised if by the end of the day at midnight, when you have a good idea, we're down here. You know, based on what we're doing right now, we could go down here. Otherwise, if Trump does win, we could use like a level like this as support and jump back up, or this and jump back up, right? Now, here is the CNN updates. If you want to stay up to date to the news and you don't want to, I guess, watch it, it might distract you. This is a pretty decent thing to do. It's pretty much giving you updates. And there's already problems. For example, some of the voting machines are actually polling machines are having technical issues. One is back up in Georgia. Um, someone said they've never seen a motion like this before. I mean, this election is so crazy that already 100 million people have voted in early, and that. I think that didn't happen in 2016. We can see a lot of data is here. We have updates coming in as they come in. So you can see, Joe Biden and Trump will probably do some events throughout the day, but um, so here you go. USPS reports another drop in on-time movement of mail ballots. There's going to be a lot of problems with machines, ballots. I think both parties, if the race is enough, both parties are going to want each ballot counted for. So we may not get a final answer by the end of the day, but I think we will get a good idea. And that brings up the next article. I'll share these in Discord. So this is where we'll have a good first impression. 7 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Florida closes their polls there, Georgia and North Carolina and Ohio. These are all major states, especially for Trump. If Trump can hold on to these, loses any one of these, especially Florida, it's a wrap. It's Biden's time to be president. So you gotta watch that. So Florida counts fast. So we'll probably know around 8 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern what Florida is looking like. Also, Ohio counts pretty fast. The take note for Ohio, early in mail ballots will come first. Don't be surprised to see Mr. Biden take an early lead. Then we'll have to wait for the election day vote, which could take several more hours. Mr. Trump will most likely mount a comeback, but we'll see whether it's enough, right? So we know Democrats like to mail in, Republicans like to vote on election day. Be counted in until almost midnight or even past midnight. So it's gonna be a long day once that voting starts coming in. And again, you can't really predict how the reactions will be because there's so many surprises, right? So it's best to just stay out of the markets. I mean, this morning, a lot of traders might have entered a trade thinking, I have T minus 8 hours until the results are published. Let me enter a trade. But what they didn't factor in was the markets don't care, right? They're going to react whenever they want to. And so for anyone that was trying to squeeze in a last minute trade before the news, hopefully you were short. You're short on the dollar. If not, if you're long on the dollar, you would have got burnt really hard. And so that's why I said that it's just best to sit on your hands and learn from the mistakes of others and not make them on your own. And this is a pretty good article. So 8 p.m. Eastern, you have Florida, Maine, Pennsylvania. This is going to be a key state as well. Michigan will be key, and obviously Texas. So if Mr. Biden still holds a comfortable lead in Florida after the early votes arrive in the panel, I support. So it all comes down to Florida. So let's say we have Florida results, and at 8 p.m. if Biden still has that lead, then Trump might be in trouble, right? And then you have signs of Trump. So if Mr. Trump has already fought Mr. Biden to draw in Florida, this one could go down to the wire. Okay, so they do every scenario. I like it's pretty unbiased, and they cover every possible factor in every possible scenario. So I'll share both these articles on Discord. In terms of technicals, I do feel until 8 p.m. This will go down lower. I think Wall Street is banking on a Biden win, and that means a huge stimulus bill will be passed. And every time a stimulus bill has been passed in this past year, the dollar has depreciated. The reason why the dollar was recovering was because the Republicans did not want to pass another bill, right? So um, that's what's going on, and you can see where price rejected, right? It was this resistance zone, this blue resistance zone, and it's a very important thing that we draw these zones because it covers a wide amount of ground that a single line that couldn't, right? So price came here, tried to close above, but it just wicked, and then when we never cleared that high, price is sold off, right? Now, if you look at some of the key setups we looked at yesterday, you'll see that they're completely exploiting the dollar. For example, euro, right? You can see euro is just completely shooting up, and it's actually crazy where a euro is shooting up is actually this low right here. If you guys remember, for the past few days, we were looking to short the euro because we were banking on a stronger dollar. But our entry criteria was very precise and specific. We wanted a daily closure below 1.16150. We obviously didn't get that. We actually came down to this low, used as support, and we jumped back up. You can see the daily candle for the euro, very, very huge. And that's the type of candle you rarely see unless something big happened, like an election. Oh man, my throat really hurts. 1 second. I need some water. Actually, yeah. This is the water. I was gonna get my Coke, but I guess water's fine. Right. So this is the this is the reaction you see, and for most traders who initially saw this sell-off during Europe or during the London session, they were probably piling on the shorts and getting ready for a big payday during the election. But I did a complete 180. It didn't even go down to this low. It actually went maybe a few pips away. But this trade's still on the table because this is all fundamental, right? Once we have clarity on who wins, regardless of who takes the presidency, I'm bullish on the dollar to end the year. So we'll just have to wait for this setup to play in. The daily doesn't look too bad. Actually, the weekly doesn't look too bad. Last week we had a pretty significant sell-off, so it does make sense for some sort of retracement. But maybe by the end of the week we could start tipping our scales back down lower. All right. Now another pair that's doing some damage is Aussie dollar. You can see very similar concept. We're looking for a daily bearish closure below this blue support zone, and you can see very clearly price did not break and close below. Instead, price came here, printed a bullish. Let me remove this to the side. Price printed a nice bullish hammer off support and jumped up. The current daily candle is also a bullish hammer, so that obviously tells you that there's a lot of momentum against the dollar right now. But again, this trade idea is based on the higher time frames, right? The daily still looks fairly bearish to me. Obviously, not right now, but in the long-term perspective, unless we clear this significant high, I'm still sticking to the short idea. Right, if we do clear this significant high, then maybe we can look for a long up to here. But I think because of my bias for a bullish dollar to end the year, I'm going to stick with the potential trade that we had, right? This one. And similar to Euro, last week we had a pretty decent sell-off, so we were due for a retracement or some sort of pullback. But if all goes well, and I hope it does for the sake of the U.S., the dollar should take its throne and we can continue lower. Okay, this is all speculation, and this is a pending trade idea, so it doesn't hurt if this speculation was wrong. Again, we're entering an election which is totally unpredictable. Even Wall Street isn't too sure who's going to win. It's all about probabilities. But if it looks bullish enough and the dollar does look like it's going to continue lower, we can take the long back up to here, right, to these highs. So we do have a lot of options on the table, but with so much news coming, and we have NFP too, we have ADP, we have monetary policy this week, FOMC. With all that news, there's no real kind of points of looking for a specific setup. Just looking at the rough outline of a trade, of a pair, and just learning. This is a learning week where you just try to absorb what happens in an election, right? This is your first time trading an election. Now you know what happens. And plus, this is not even my first time trading an election, but it's definitely my first time trading a pandemic and an election, and it's just a new experience, right? So if you look at the monthly candle, it's a nice bullish hammer. So there may be indications that this does jump higher, and this just favors Biden's odds more. Um, we can't say anything till Florida's votes come out, but yesterday I said, this is what I said, and this isn't my who I want to win or anything like that. This is completely removing all bias, all favoritism, and just based on the data. This is what I said is a chance of the individuals winning. I think this morning, just based on the market reaction, just based off what I see from the markets, you can bump this up to maybe 60%, and you can bump this up to 40, or bump this down to 40%, just based off the market reaction, right? So all this can change at 8 p.m., right? If Trump can lock down Florida, lock down Pennsylvania, lock down these key battleground states, then all this is out the window. But for now, based on what I'm seeing on the markets and what Wall Street is kind of suggesting, I think this is the current odds. This was the odds yesterday, and that's what we have. And then gold. So gold is obviously going to be the one that probably moves the most. It has the most volatility, and you can see just this morning. Just this morning, over 2,200 pips. Just this morning. That's why I told everyone it's very crazy to trade this event. 2,200 pips in the morning. I mean, that's pretty intense, right? That's a lot of movement. And you can see that there's also an upside potential here. If we do clear, for example, I would love to clear this significant high, but I mean, even if we clear maybe something like this, that'd be fine, right? Because you can kind of take your TP1 here and then just let it ride up to here. We can see the same thing with Euro. Price came down to this kind of support region and just jumped back up. And so we were looking for a break as we were forecasting a stronger dollar. But Wall Street is predicting a Biden win and therefore a weaker dollar. And so this should go up. I highly recommend you watch yesterday's video because we covered all the possibilities and how gold will go up if Biden was supposed to win. And based on this, it looks probable that that may be the case. So gold, if you look at the weekly time frame, which was the time frame we used to make this idea, that downtrend is still preserved, right? We've been pretty consistent with the lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and lower highs. This could be a new lower high. So we've been pretty consistent with that. Just 1847 is the level we need to break. So based on the higher time frame, we're still bearish. Don't get too fooled by today's closure. But tomorrow morning, we will have enough data to see who won, even though votes will be recounted for the next coming weeks. But at least we'll have a good idea to maybe not, like, around 85% probability that we have the right winner. We can start looking at trade ideas. Maybe for next week, because tomorrow we have ADP, and then Thursday we have pound monetary policy, and then Friday we have the NFP numbers. So if there was ever a week to take a vacation, it might be this week, but it's just a great chance to learn and just see the madness that unfolds. So that's that. If there's any other pairs you want my opinion on, let me know. I know there's a delay between what I say and YouTube, so I'm just going to give it a few seconds. Oh, my throat hurts. While that happens, I'm looking for a hose. Is it bad that I'm tasting blood? All right. So we have someone on Discord. Let me check YouTube really quickly. All right. So we have Discord, BTC, okay, and SP 500. Perfect. Man, might go to the doctor this weekend. All right. So BTC, use Coinbase. Oh, there we go. Hallelujah. Perfect. So this goes way back, like way back for BTC. But when we broke this trend line, this long-term trend line, our overall target was this high, 13,894. And what happened was we went around 70% of the way there. We came to 12,250, and then we sold off. And so we identified this low, and we're waiting for price to break the low to go short. Price never did, but price jumped up. And again, BTC is hinting at a possible buy the win, as this is BTC versus the US dollar, looking for a weaker US dollar. Now is a fabulous time for me to buy BTC. It's not financial advice, but for me to buy BTC, I mean, this is a good time. That all-time high will be nothing. Will be easily achieved. Because all it takes is this election week for price to go from here to up here. Very easily can do that because it's done that in the past. From here to here was 1 week's worth of movement. Yeah, that's fabulous to see. So if you have some BTC in your possession, you might have a smile from cheek to cheek right now because, and even from a value investing perspective, where you just don't have a stop loss and you're just holding it in case it does pop off. This looks bullish. This is the most bullish BTC has looked to me since 2019, December 2019 to be exact. If you recall, in December 2019, let's try to find a month. Yeah, right here. I called the short down to I think 3,000. Price didn't go actually to I think 2,500. Price went to 3,000 and then jumped back up. I am bullish on this BTC. Never thought I'd say that. Maybe I said that here, but this is probably the most bullish I've been. And I'm not really a huge crypto head, but I may I may get some BTC over the weekend. I mean, that is fantastic. Last week's candle was great. Last week's candle was probably, or last month's candle was probably the sign to let you know that things are going to turn for BTC. And now this monthly candle is a bearish hammer, but we know that's a pullback candle, so good things are on the way for BTC. That is for sure. So that's what I have. Long-term target is that all-time high. Stop loss at 12K. You know, it's probably what I'll be doing. Now let's do the SP 500. So let's take a look. Weekly time frame. Alright, so last time we looked at this, we saw price bounce from here, from this low, go back to the 3,500 psychological level, and then sell off. Once it sold off, we wanted price to break that previous low to go short. It did not. Prices jumped up, and that makes sense. Again, it's forecasting a buy and win. Wall Street is. So we may see SP 500 back up to 3,500 by the end of the day. That may be a decent option. So, I mean, it's always been in an uptrend. It does have these pretty intense sell-offs, but for the most part, you always want to be long or value invest the SP 500, right? So yeah, I think 3,500 is a decent target. We have a nice bullish hammer for this week, and let's take a look at the daily. Yeah, that's good. We gapped up. I do think we'll go up at least to this high, but the bare minimum will go to 3,500. But I do think we'll go to either this or this high, right? One of these two. All right. Oh, someone on YouTube said U.S. oil. So last time we discussed U.S. oil, it was a short, nice little play, and then price actually went far lower, and obviously since then it's jumped up with the the incoming election, right? Let's take a look at the daily. Do this. I know it looks like a mess, but that's because we have a lot of these intraday levels in there. See, oil, I'm still bearish on oil. Just because we still have the pandemic, and remember what happened to oil during the pandemic. It dropped to almost negative prices. So this still looks pretty bearish to me, especially because the sell-off we had to start the year is so dramatic that it's going to take a huge heroic act on oil for this to convince me to upside move, right? We've been waiting for oil to clear 43.25. It still hasn't. Until it does, I'm still bearish. So what I'll be looking forward to is oil to close bearish on the weekly time frame below 34.58. Yeah, let me just go to the weekly to show you more clearly. Right. So I want a weekly closure below 34.58. Okay. And if we do get that, I do think price will head lower. We wicked earlier in the day. We did not close bearish, but if we do close bearish below this level, I do think price will start making its way down to these lows, and especially down to here, where oil pretty much hit zero. So that's what I have for oil. Again, this is all speculation. We have the major event is still to come, and that's from 7 p.m. all the way to I think you can say 1 a.m. Eastern. So I hope you guys are safe in this election day. Wherever you're around the world, if you're voting, if you're not voting, just don't. If you don't have to be in the markets, don't be in the markets. We've already seen the volatility, and we haven't even seen the results. We haven't even seen one result being published yet. So imagine what happens when the results are published. So I'll be on Discord during the election result releases, and we'll have a good time just discussing it. So I think that is it. Let me just do a quickly check. All right, perfect. All right, we're good. So that is that. Let me check. I use my phone to check Discord and YouTube at the same time. All right, YouTube is clear. Discord is also clear. All right, so we're perfect. So anything else, send it on Discord. Let's have a great day, an amusing day, where you watch the markets go completely